District Attorney Jan Scully. Hi, Jan. Good to see you here today. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Singleton?
Here.
Payne? Here. Campion?
Here.
Cruz?
Present.
Howard?
Here. Steve, anything to report back from the closed session?
Good evening, Mayor and council members. The City Council is in closed session this evening regarding conference with labor negotiators, and there's no action to report.
Thank you. We will have silent prayer, then the flag salute with Venturing Crew number 119.
Attention, Guard forward march. Halt. Guard, prepare to post cutters. Will you please join me in the pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Guard, post cutters. Guard form, guard retreat, IND.
Ready for the video statement, Liz?
I am. This meeting of the Galt City Council is being videotaped in its entirety and will be cablecast without interruption on Metro Cable 14, the Government Affairs channel, on the Comcast and SureWest cable systems. Tonight's meeting can be seen on Channel 14 and will also be webcast at www.saxmetrocables.tv this Friday and Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. Tonight's meeting can also be seen via live video streaming on the city's website at www.ci.galt.ca.us. A DVD copy will also be available for checkout from any library branch. Members of the audience wishing to address council should fill out a speaker identification form and give it to the clerk. Please speak into the microphone when addressing council and state your name for the record.
Thank you. Council agenda approval additions or deletions?
I do have a few. Items I-2 and 3, they're both appointments to committees. If we could move those up actually before presentation.
That'd be great. So that puts you on right now.
Okay. First is an appointment to the Commission on Aging. We have one vacancy on the commission. It's Councilmember Cruz' appointment. We did receive one letter of interest from Thurman, I think he goes by Skip Roberts. And at this time, I ask for an appointment or direction.
I would be glad to ask Mr. Roberts to take the position.
Okay.
Is he in the audience? I don't see him.
Okay, thank you. And next we have the Youth Committee. Barbara, do you want to introduce them? We have new members that the Youth Committee is looking to be appointed and concurrence from the City Council at this time.
Do you have the list?
I do. I do.
We don't have it. I don't have it memorized.
Okay. We have, and come on up once I call your name. Maria Sandoval, Alina Munich, excuse me if I say your name wrong, Brandon Garcia.
Brandon is participating in the every 15 minutes and is unable to be here tonight.
Jesus Gonzalez, Eduardo Lopez, Andrew Klutz, and Catherine Bandy.
And I would like to have Lisa Klein come up. She's one of the mentors, and let her introduce them.
On the spot.
They are mentoring by example, by showing that sometimes you're called upon to do things you're not expected to do, or to try education, and that's what each one of these things are going to do. I participated in the interview process for each one of these youth, and I feel quite confident that they will all do a wonderful job and have such in their hearts a great love for the community and for the youth inside the community. So I'm introduced to you as new members.
Thank you.
And one part, we're right away introversion take all the time, so that's great. All of it.
Yeah, you knew that was coming. You're not going nowhere.
Nice try.
Right back here, in the middle.
Good.
They have, are you
Okay, yeah, we're going to swear them in, but first I would ask the mayor to look for a motion and a second on approving them for the youth committee.
Do I have a motion? You have a
I
second?
wanted to do it. That's okay. That's okay.
Call for the vote, please.
Okay, Vice Mayor Singleton?
Aye.
Councilmember Payne?
Aye.
Councilmember Campion?
Aye.
Councilmember Cruz?
Aye.
Mayor Powers?
Fine.
Okay, so now I'm going to have all of you kind of come back up where your picture was.
You're always being given direction.
I'm Bob.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm going to stand over here because this is your moment. But I need each one of you to raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of California, against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and during such time that I am a committee member of the Gulf Street Committee, I will faithfully discharge the duties of the position of student member according to the best of my ability. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Okay, now we're on to presentations, and our first presentation is the first 5 school readiness programs. What's Donna Whitlock?
Hold on.
You'll do well.
I'm working on it.
Oh, okay. My name is Donna Whitlock, and I'm the Prevention and Intervention Advocate Coordinator for Long Island for the Gulf Elementary School District. And a few months ago, I was asked to present the first 5 Sacramento Commission meetings.
on the progress of our school readiness program as well. And I just really truly wanted to come in tonight to share with the council and with the city just as a thank you. Because our school district, and especially the school readiness program at Fairsight, would not be making the progress it is today without the support of the entire city as well. So bear with me for 11 slides in 10 minutes. I started the presentation in first slide with a quote from Dr. Sharon Schauer, superintendent. And when I read the first sentence, imagine every student learning, sharing, and growing in small town America, Gulf, California. I know I'm speaking to the choir when I say that, yes, our children are learning, sharing, and growing, and it's taken a community. And so this quote that I have here is from our Race to the Top, a grant that we were awarded last year. Just a really quick snapshot of our district. So most of you are very familiar with that, with our district. It's a student population. It's about 3,800 this year. We have 6 schools. And something new that I learned is that our district size is representative of the majority in the districts in the United States. The majority of the districts are in Los Angeles or San Diego. In fact, they're districts the size of Gulf. Our socioeconomically disadvantaged population in our district ranges from 52.1% to 87.3% at some of our schools. In our English learner population in our school district, children with English as a second language ranges from 18% at our middle school to 55.8% at one of our elementary schools. Our ethnicities, the major ethnicities in our district are 77% Latino and 18% white. We have 5 elementary schools, a middle school, and we have 1 preschool. And I wanted to just share some pictures with you this evening. This is Fairsight's transformation. In 2008, it was slated to be closed with declining enrollment and the budget crisis. And that was in the spring, and by fall of 2008, we transformed into a city treasure, the term coined by Supervisor Don Natoli when he referred to Fairsight. Just was, please do not close our city treasure. And so you can see by the pictures that it is very busy on our campus. First 5 School Readiness is a grant that we received about 5 years ago, and it was originally it was just $1 million for 3 years, and then it has been renewed since then. So you can see that in 2008, before First 5 funds, over at Fairsight, we had 100 children with 5 preschool classes, and we had 1 family literacy class. With First 5 funding, with the support from the city of Gulf, and with some other programs, you can tell today that our school readiness program is alive and well, with 9 preschool classrooms serving approximately 180 children. We have ongoing parent engagement opportunities throughout the year. We have a Jumpstart Kinder Camp in the summer for children who have never had the opportunity to go to preschool. We have parent and child play groups that go on 3 days a week for 0 to 3 with families. Free health screenings throughout the year, and thanks to the Race to the Top federal grant, we have a personalized learning program called Early Steps for home visitation for at-risk families. Truly, I think what makes Fairsight special in Gulf are its collaborative partnerships. First 5 funding has brought some partnerships that we really value, like Smile Keepers. It comes out their van comes 3 times a year to Fairsight and screens and does fluoride treatments to not only our preschoolers, but any other children in communities 0 to 5. La Familia Family Resource Center comes out from Sacramento, has a home visitation program for families, and also offers parenting classes at Fairsight. The preschool bridging model for 3 years has offered professional development and technical assistance, not only to Fairsight, but to all our preschool programs in Gulf. Sacramento Covered is now going to be on our campus 2 times a month to enroll our district families in health insurance. And then UC Davis Extension Program goes ongoing with nutrition classes for parents. You know, although our grant is for 0 to 5 through our school district, any family involved, regardless of the age of their children, can attend the classes. Sacramento County Office of Education has been really important also. The collaborative partnerships locally with the City of Gulf, the Youth Master Plan for 0 to 25 that the City of Gulf and the school district and our youth created. It has a 0 to 5 component, and that was just critical in the designing of our program. I know I'm not on the CAST committee, but I know that the CAST committee, along with the city and the schools, they meet on a regular basis to collaborate and meet. Parks and Recreation has really put in a lot of support, and they're also on our campus with 2 classrooms. City Council, I'm proud to say that when I presented the First 5 Commission, Barbara came along also, and she was gracious enough to, well, she's also on our First 5 Advisory Committee, and she was gracious enough to stand up in front of the council and also say a few words, and I really appreciate that. You know, City Council, even when we had a lockdown, was that 2 years ago, my thing stopped by to make sure the preschool got the news of the lockdown, which they hadn't. But just watching out and watching over us. The Chamber of Commerce, we really look forward to our Strawberry Run every year, and the Gulf PD and Fire Department, which has numerous programs on our campus. We work with Marion Lawrence Library, which is luckily down the street. They, the librarian, Diane, not only provides field trips on a regular basis, she actually comes into our classrooms to do family literacy. The Dia de los Niños is the last April of every year, the last Saturday in April, and we put that on in coordination. We have about 300 families out there for Dia de los Niños. Leveraged funding, we have a finite amount of money, and it's very important that I think that our community knows that Fairsight does not use general funds from our school district, that Fairsight is completely funded through the grant and through our partners that we have on our school site. But the district's able to match the services with a psychologist, speech therapist, and some other employees from the district. Migrant education, we have the largest migrant population in Sac County here in Gulf. We have over 200 of our children are considered migrants. And migrant education, I would say they donate over $100,000 each year to support the education of the migrant children. Workforce development, we were very proud. I think it's been about 2 years now that San Joaquin Delta College, through some meetings, they came on board at Fairsight, and we offered the first ever cohort where the 25 students at the end of the year and a half received their associate preschool permit, teaching permit. And so then this fall, Sac State actually began their first cohort. It's a bachelor's. And so at the end of 3 years, I think there's 25 students from our community who have their bachelor's or BA in child development at the end. And then Gulf High School District for the last few years have also been sending students over to assist. And then the new opportunities to Raise to the Top grant. It's a pre-K-8 grant, while most of the services from Raise to the Top did go mostly to the elementary school. This Save the Children Early Steps to School Success program was brought to our district from Raise to the Top. All Bright Future Centers are open for children 0 to 5, so regardless of how young the children are, they can go to a Bright Future Center at any of our schools and check out books. And finally, the next step, finding solutions and our challenges. We are still somewhat geographically isolated. There's a scarcity of a large variety of support services that I think a lot of people take for granted in Sac County. We still have limited public transportation. And our unmet needs, the oral health, and just the infrastructure, too, of the specialty care site, which is the oldest school in the district. I'm really excited because Barbara and I, we toured a dental clinic in South Sacramento a few months ago. And the reason we toured that dental clinic is because it's been suggested, and I think it's on our strategic plan, that the next dental clinic in Sacramento County, they're proposing that it is in Gulf, and that it will serve Gulf and our River Delta community. So,
And I would just address that it is so important for our young people to be able to, for our youngest people to have dental care. And we love Galt being the wonderful little town that it is, but it's a problem for many of the families, especially with working mothers, to get their children to dental clinics in Elk Grove or wherever. So this would be a really important benefit for our community if it happens, and I think it will.
I do too. So I think that strategic plan is for 2016, I believe.
Yes.
When they're going to restate that. Anyway, that's the end of my presentation. Do you have any questions?
Questions, council?
None?
No.
No, that's
So
great.
thank you.
I love
Thank
it.
you so very much for your support and working with our school district. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for all your hard work. Thank
I
you.
have to make a comment, Mayor, if I may. Donna, you can't sit down without me saying that without the wonderful work that you do, you've taken this, what does it take, this lemon and turned it into lemonade, and it's recognized throughout First Five as one of the shining successes in our program, and so much of that goes to the caring of Donna Whitlock.
Yeah, Donna.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Yeah.
you. And you know, I truly, you think this might be the norm, having the city and schools working together and planning, but it truly isn't.
Mhm.
And it's incredible what teamwork and partnerships can do.
Thank you, Don. Okay, now our second presentation is the Sacramento Regional Family Justice Center.
Good evening,
Hi.
and thanks for giving me this opportunity. I really appreciate it. I want to begin on a personal note before I talk about the Family Justice Center, and that is really, I want to take the opportunity to thank the council as well as the residents of Galt for the support that you've given the district attorney's office over the years. And I say this because I'm ending 20 years as the elected DA at the end of this year. And so coming here tonight gives me that opportunity just to say it's been a wonderful ride and an honor to be the DA of this wonderful region, and I'm very proud of that. And I wouldn't be remiss if I didn't also acknowledge
You need some background music. Yeah.
this is kind of backwards, typically Jews, but anyway, Chief Bowen, because he is, I can't say enough about him. He's a wonderful partner. Yes, Galt is remote, and yes, Galt tends to be smaller, but he really makes a contribution. He's very well respected and valued as a regional public safety partner. I know that I've talked with him about many things, and I will miss you, Chief. Really appreciate the partnership. The program I talked about tonight, he's been very supportive of, and so I just want to start on that, which is not related to family violence, but this is a really important issue that I do want to talk about tonight. So commonly, when a victim of domestic violence wants to leave a violent home environment, often with children, she wants to protect, she leaves a world of financial, emotional, and material dependency. For her to get out, she will need a myriad of services to support her move. Right now in Sacramento, to get all the things she might need, she would have to visit 40-plus public agencies and community-based organizations. All those organizations are doing wonderful work in the service area that they provide, but our system of delivering these kinds of services and support to these victims is complicated, fragmented, and overwhelming. Left on her own, the victim is unable to access these supportive services she needs, and often gives up and returns to the abuser upon whom she is dependent. So let me tell you about our vision of a regional family justice center, or an FJC, here in Sacramento. Working on a bit of a frog in my throat. So what is an FJC? It's a place a domestic violence victim can go to on her own or be referred and get the support and the services that she and her children need to leave an abusive relationship. Instead of her having to go it alone searching for those services, the Family Justice Center will bring those services to her. From the victim's standpoint, it will be a virtual one-stop shop. The FJC will also serve victims of elder abuse, child abuse, sexual assault, and human trafficking, which we have become to learn so much about of late. Just a little history, back in October of 2011, I chair our Domestic Violence Coordinating Council for Sacramento, and I committed to leading up to establish this Family Justice Center, and over the course of the next 6 months, we visited family justice centers that are elsewhere in California. We went to some national trainings, and at the end of November of 2012, we actually had a 2-day professionally facilitated strategic planning session where over 120 individuals representing public, community-based, and private organizations participated. That event launched this regional multidisciplinary and multi-agency collaborative effort, and I've heard a lot about collaboration, which Galt is very good at. So tonight I want to share with you our passion and commitment to establish an FJC and hope that you, Galt, and the residents will join us in making this campaign a reality. So really going to be looking for some partnerships, and this is kind of setting the table for that. And why is because everybody in our community deserves a safe, nurturing home and to live a life free of violence and abuse. Whether a member of our family, a friend, a work colleague, a neighbor, or a member of our church, most of us know somebody who has suffered violence at the hands of someone who they should be able to trust. Much of our work and vision to establish a Family Justice Center is featured in the 8-minute video I'm about to show you. In making this video and in planning our center, we listened to the domestic violence survivors from our own community. We call them our Voices group. And you will hear from them on this video. We're all very proud of them for enduring the tragedy with courage and dignity, and I'm grateful for their willingness to share their stories and their pain. Our Voices group speaks for all victims who don't have a voice, who can't speak for themselves. They remind us that domestic violence is not just a criminal justice issue, but a community-wide issue. After all, we cannot arrest and prosecute our way out of family violence. Our Voices group is our wake-up call that now is the time to make our vision of a Sacramento Family Justice Center a reality. So if we could watch the video together.
My mom stood up and she put up her hand to say stop. And I looked up and there was the gun over my head.
Domestic violence can happen to anyone.
I'm bleeding. My kids, they're hiding in the closet. Oh my God, what happened in my life?
It recognizes no boundaries of class, race, sexual orientation, or gender.
Our daughter was about to end the relationship, and I guess he couldn't handle that, and he put the gun up to her face, her head, and killed her.
It occurs behind closed doors in the privacy of homes in every part of our community, and often the victims are afraid to reach out for help or don't know who to turn to.
He started begging me all the time, and he knew I wouldn't tell nobody.
The U.S. Department of Justice estimates that 1 in every 4 women and 1 in every 31 men will experience domestic violence in their lifetime. And locally, domestic violence occurs in our community every day. That includes elder abuse, child abuse, sexual assault, and human trafficking.
Last year in Sacramento County, there were more than 18,000 domestic violence-related calls to 911. Our law enforcement agencies respond to more domestic violence-related calls than any other types of reported incidents. These calls pose some of the most dangerous situations for law enforcement to confront.
Our county prosecutes thousands of domestic violence cases each year. Unfortunately, there are many more cases that go unreported, and the victims are just falling through the cracks.
Here in Sacramento, one of the biggest challenges combating domestic violence and human trafficking are our unique demographics. Sacramento region is one of the fastest growing and most culturally diverse areas in the country, which makes it hard to meet the needs of domestic violence and human trafficking victims. So we have to work together to meet the needs of the underserved and underprotected victims in our community.
The link between domestic violence and a poor economy is pretty well documented. For families that are vulnerable, when stresses increase at home, either due to unemployment or other hardships, domestic violence can increase as well. And adding to that, many victims feel tethered to their abusers for financial reasons. When those victims choose to leave, they're at a much greater risk for ending up on the streets, with as many as 1 in 3 homeless women reporting their homelessness to be due to having left an abusive relationship.
While the victims of family violence are predominantly women, domestic violence also victimizes men, teenagers, and the elderly. And the impact on children can really be devastating. Studies show that people who abuse were often abused themselves. So breaking these intergenerational cycles of abuse is one of the most important challenges we face.
Domestic violence isn't just a tragedy that takes place in the privacy of the home. It follows the victim to the workplace, and the effects are devastating on the victim, on co-workers, even on the bottom line. I've read that according to the Centers for Disease Control, domestic violence costs businesses more than $729 million a year nationally, and that doesn't even include related medical and mental health care costs.
We in the business community understand that the safety and well-being of everyone in the areas where we do business is essential to a healthy and prosperous region. Like any successful business, the Family Justice Center will be a coordinated system of critical services, helping to reduce violence and to protect lives.
We're fortunate here in Sacramento to already have a long history of dedicated people working together to end domestic violence. And it's because of the county's existing resources and our past success that we've been chosen to participate in a statewide initiative to establish a Family Justice Center right here in Sacramento.
WEAVE is our oldest domestic violence service agency. They provide a wide range of services, including crisis intervention, a safe house, a children's center, transitional housing, and other services. A Community for Peace and My Sister's House are also vital organizations that address people who live in rural and geographically isolated areas and also help people with specific cultural challenges. Rather than duplicate the work of these agencies, the Family Justice Center is going to enhance and complement them.
Domestic violence prevention presents many challenges, and the road to recovery for affected families is a difficult one. But with the right comprehensive resources and support, it is possible.
By bringing together our existing committed partners and forming a collaborative framework, we can provide a safe place for victims and their families to receive the resources and services they need to escape domestic violence.
This collaboration will help fill the cracks in our current system, allowing us to get to victims early and help us put an end to domestic violence.
Everything was in there. If there was childcare, if there was legal, if there was everything in there, housing, whatever. Whatever they can do to help you all in one building, it would be so much easier for the victim.
When you are afraid and to have your kids, you try to find a really place safe for them. That's I really want to looking for Family Justice Center. That's my house, my other house, my home.
Our Family Justice Center will be a place free from the grip of violence. Our collaborative approach will provide a seamless response to meeting the needs of victims, allowing hope to be restored and families to thrive. The foundation has been laid. Now the work of making it a reality begins. Will you help? Are you in?
Sacramento State is proud to be the premier partner in this initiative.
We're in!
Are you in? We're in.
We're in!
We're in. We're in.
We're in!
We're in.
We're in! We're in! We're in! We're in!
We are in. We're in. We're in.
We're in.
We're in. We're in. We're in. We're in. We're in.
We're in.
Please join us in our campaign to establish a Family Justice Center. You can show your support by purchasing an I'm In wristband. For more information on purchasing the wristband or finding out ways you can help, please go to our website.
I think we're going to do a lot of big things.
Because we're the voices. That's right.
The website is hopethriveshere.org. Are you in?
We're in.
Oh, we're in, yes.
Yes.
I have to acknowledge and thank Sac State, who's a major partner with us, which I can take up more time on this, but a huge opportunity being connected to a university, and will serve as a national model because there is no family justice center in the nation that has a partnership that's university-based. So that provides a lot of great opportunities. Really, right now, we're in the process of identifying a physical site. We have a couple of potentials. Once we do that, we are ready to roll. We have a core group of partners ready to move in to start opening up shop. We are going to be working challenges with jurisdictions such as Gulf, because we look for easy transportation access to the center, those kinds of things. But we'll have to explore opportunities to have remotely, whether it's by what do you call not FaceTime, what is it, Skyping or whatever, where we actually can do some work and determine needs and services to support victims, even remotely, by having that virtual relationship as if we are under that roof. We're very excited about the opportunity, and when they talk about really why it's important, you know, we have to accept reality that we don't know the half of the domestic violence, the family violence that goes on in our entire region. And well, it's true in the state and the nation. So this is the most effective way that we can address that, because people deserve to have that violence-free environment. And a home that's free of violence is a community that is free from violence. And it's especially important, you heard about breaking the cycle with children. The boys, or men I should say, that we prosecute for violent crimes and go off to prison have a history of growing up in an abusive environment. They either were subject to it or they were around it and saw it. And the young women, those that were exposed to it, they end up marrying or getting into relationships with people that abuse them. And so by getting in early with Family Justice Center, by working with the children in a more proactive way, we have a chance to break that cycle, and that's what will make a difference in our community. The one other thing that I just wanted to share is Paul Dernberger, who's Assistant Chief Deputy and is leading the project actually for us, collaborative that we're working on. A common question is, so you talk about 40-plus services. If a victim needed everything, what does that look like? And while every victim, with or without children, doesn't need every single service potentially, there are the typical kinds of efforts that they will need, which is why we need public and private and community-based organizations working together. And I'm just going to ask Paul just to give a brief example to you, and then if you have some questions, we'd be happy to answer them.
Great.
Thank you, Dan, and good evening, Council. Thank you for having us. Really do appreciate it. I've been with this attorney's office since 1988. I jokingly say that when I started there, I had brown hair, and that every gray hair that I earned in the job, I take it as an honor. It's been an honor serving the people of Sacramento County. For the last 10-plus years of my life, I have really been focused on family violence. I spent 4 years myself prosecuting nothing but child abuse and child sexual assault when I was a line deputy. I also spent the last 8 years heading the domestic violence unit before I became assistant chief. And one of the grave duties that I had was being the chair of the county domestic violence advocacy team. That's a team that meets every month that reviews every domestic violence homicide we have in this county. And we have a lot of domestic violence homicides in this county. If you've been watching the papers the last few weeks, you've seen a number of them. And that's not uncommon. It happens way too frequently in Sacramento County. My goal of this is really to reduce domestic violence homicide. San Diego City has had a Family Justice Center since 2003, and their domestic violence homicides have decreased over 50% in the city where they have an active Family Justice Center. My goal is really to be able to someday make a call to my team that meets every month and say, we don't have to meet this month. We don't have any more domestic violence homicides. I've never been able to do that in the last 8.5 years that I've run that program. So that really is the goal of this. But, you know, you hear, what does a domestic violence victim really go through? And a lot of people's first reaction is, why don't they just leave? Because the initial response of somebody that isn't in the system or thrown into it thinks that that's the solution. If you are a domestic violence victim or you talk to them, you realize that that is just the beginning of another wall of problems that is created by a system that really doesn't think about what a victim has to go through. And I'll try to shorten this up, so I'm not going to give you every example that every victim goes through. But if a victim calls 911, the first thing that happens, they get a police law enforcement response. Usually men with badges that want to tell them that they need to take a report. And they'll give them some information in a pamphlet and said, if you need something else, this is where to call. They're also told that we can get you a 5-day temporary restraining order, but it'd really be better for you to go to family court and get a restraining order down there. So that way you can get it permanent. And that starts the process off. Where is family court? If you live in Galt, family court is off of Power Inn and Folsom Boulevard, just south of Folsom Boulevard. If you drive up there and then pay for parking, you stand in line. If you're there after 9:30 in the morning, they tell you to come back tomorrow. We have too many people in line, and we only have 2 people in the service when they give you the forms you need to fill out, so come back tomorrow. If you come back tomorrow and get there, and you get through the line, you're asked, do you know how to fill out these forms? If you're told no, then you're told you have to go to a class. We have these classes on Wednesdays and Thursdays. You can sign up for them, and then they're given directions. Another trip out to family court. That class, if you get in it and you fill it out correctly, then you have to go back in and fill the forms, stand in lines and fill those forms in again. And if you get that family with temporary restraining order, the law enforcement will help you serve it on the abuser. That's something most victims don't even realize. They think, what am I going to do with this? I still have to find him. I don't want to find him. I'm trying to stay away from him. Or if it's a her, I want to stay away from her, right? So they don't realize, and usually they're not even told in the beginning that law enforcement will serve it for them. But what they do find out is that they do have to go back for another permanent restraining order, which usually requires them to park, drive, sit all day, watch the abuser, intimidate them while they're standing in the hallway, and then have to go through this process. And then usually they're told when they're turning in their papers, did you attach a copy of the police report? Because judges really like to see a copy of the police report to be able to substantiate that this isn't just something you're making up to get custody of your children. Interesting enough, there's a study by UCLA that says that if you try to get custody of your children and you put in there that you've been a victim of domestic abuse, you are less likely to get custody of your children than you are if you don't include them. And a lot of that really is because 90% of the victims that go in there are completely unrepresented. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know how to document their restraining orders and their custody orders, and so they come in with half of the things that the judge needs to be able to verify that this is actually happening. If you need to go back and get your police reports, that means you have to go back and see Chief Bowen's office, and then I believe in Galt you can actually get it that day. Some of the law enforcement agencies can take a few days before you get that report. Then you have to go back to family court. You can see how this is a problem, how that wall of frustration tells the victim, we don't care about you, right? We're not even talking about the other services they need, which is social services, getting an EBT card, what if they need emergency housing? Most of our shelters are usually filled up. Sometimes they can get you shelter outside of the county. But even if they can't get you that, then you have to go to DHA and get if you're eligible to either drive to Marconi Avenue or maybe up Lauren Road. At least the parking is free, maybe you are going to have to stand in line again. It's just a never-ending battle, especially for a victim that has lost sometimes the financial strength of the relationship they were in, and also to a victim that has, let's say, $5 of gas and has to determine, do I get my kids to school or do my student run all these days? So the idea is for us is to create a collaborative network that is linked, so that we can have all of these services in one location. And if you need this, we've talked to the family court and they're willing to do this, so that you can go there, you can get your restraining order forms filled out correctly by someone that's trained to do it. The first day you come in, you're not going to have to repeat your story, and then they'll take it over and file it for you. Or the court is actually working on a system where we can file it online at the center, and all of the domestic violence agencies that work on these cases around the county. I've had some very brief talks with Chief Bowen about actually having access, maybe via Skype or some other service, to Galt, so a victim can come into law enforcement even if they need these extra services. We can put them up right there with the center and get all those things done from there. It's really a good way to link, especially outside communities where victims usually have the most difficulty getting services that are usually focused in either city central or county government.
Thank you.
And the last thing is that although we're interested in holding people accountable and protecting victims, the first priority is not arrest and prosecution. The first priority is meeting the needs and provide support to that victim and her children if she has them. And cooperating prosecution is not a requirement for them to get the support and services that they need, which we think is very important. It's surprising that once you do give them that support, then oftentimes they develop the strength to actually follow through for prosecution, because then they're better protected.
Counsel?
Well, it's about time. I think that's great. I really do. We need to protect these folks, these youngsters, and the ones that are being abused. I'm wholeheartedly in it with you. Thank you for bringing that down to us.
Go ahead, Barbara.
I would
Finish up.
I'd just like to add that it's so refreshing to have you come with a program like this instead of talking prosecution, which I know is important, but to really care about helping these people. That's the other side of the coin. And thank you so much for your years of service and for your caring.
Yes, thank you.
As the mayor of Galt, I'm very excited for this, but I also want to say on a personal note that I've also been the executive director of South County Services, which used to be the Galt Concilio. And we did have a WEAV person that came down before, but because of budget cuts, she couldn't come down, and so we personally have taken people up there. So I firsthand know that it's very prevalent in this town, and I'm so excited to see that there's a place that's coming to fruition that we can take women to. And like you said, that's very important. Law enforcement isn't, no offense, Chief Bowen, the first step is you have to get them out of there, and you have to get them somewhere where they're safe and comfortable. And I almost cried when I saw that video, because I'm so happy to see that happening, and just congratulations on working so hard on it. And
it was Sacramento State that actually produced that for us and covered whatever costs there were associated with that.
And on another note, I do want to thank you from the City of Galt for your 20 years of service. You've been an excellent district attorney, and I think you deserve a round of applause.
Yeah.
On that note, if I can, we brought you some I'm in wristbands and some brochures.
Oh, yeah.
Great.
Thank you, Jan.
It's a very important message.
She doesn't like to be called Mrs. Gomez. She likes to be called Jan. Yes. Thank you.
Okay, now we're on to our third presentation, which is Positive Coaching Alliance.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. 3 years ago, the Parks and Rec Department entered into a partnership with the Positive Coaching Alliance to provide tools to our coaches and staff in dealing with our youth. At At this time, I'd like to introduce the Executive Director of the Sacramento Positive Coaching Alliance, Bill Horrenda, to explain to you what exactly Positive Coaching Alliance is. Bill?
Thank you, Armando. I'd like to thank Mayor Powers, the City Council, all the city personnel here tonight for the time and the opportunity to explain a little bit about who we are at PCA, why we do it, and how we do it, and how we partner with Parks and Recs. But certainly I'd be remiss not to commend District Attorney Scully on the great program that you presented that obviously highlights a terrifically important issue, and certainly have the utmost, as a nonprofit executive director, when I see Weave and some of the others, obviously I have a tremendous amount of respect for the work that they're doing in the community. I also want to be very mindful of your time and try to be succinct tonight in explaining who we are and what we do. So the Positive Coaching Alliance is a national nonprofit founded at Stanford University back in 1998, all focused on better athletes, better people. So basically the whole premise is leveraging the life lessons that are ripe in athletics and translating those into life lessons for our kids. And that's not to say that we're putting a ceiling on what the kids can accomplish athletically, but at some point, the athletic playing career is going to end, and we need to prepare these kids to be the best neighbors, the best employees, the best citizens that they possibly can be. So the meek may inherit the earth, but they're not going to win the conference. And again, we're not going to say that you don't have the next Dusty Baker, the next LeBron James in your midst, but it's really about ensuring that those life lessons are capitalized on. And we all know what they are: self-confidence, industriousness, perseverance, resilience, teamwork, confidence, the list goes on and on. So basically in our workshops, which are interactive, with our coaches, we talk about what is the impact that you're having. Who is your most influential coach and why? And then we let them know that 20 years from now, the same kids that you're coaching are going to be in a workshop scenario like this. What are they going to say about you? When you bump into them in the supermarket at Safeway and what have Rayleigh's, do they embrace you, or are they running to the freezer? So much more articulate than myself, and hopefully with the advent of modern technology, we'll hear from Steve Young, one of PCA's National Advisory Board members, on the influences of his coaches and who influenced him the most. Okay, so I will paraphrase Steve Young. He's much better looking than I am. And again, I indulge you, one of the liberties I can take with this job is coming casual, running from field to field and what have you. But basically what Steve Young says is that it wasn't necessarily George Seifert or Bill Walsh that had the most impact on his life and his career, but it was really his youth coaches that dedicated their time and made athletics fun for him. Yes, we're national. We're reaching a wide number of kids. We reached over 1 million kids last year throughout the country. We have great support from corporate partners and national sports organizations. But here are just a few of the National Advisory Board members that we share the latest in research-based sports psychology with and are able to translate and break down for our coaches, our parents, and our kids. So Doc Rivers, of course, has been in the news recently, one of the NBA's terrific coaches and terrific people in sports with the whole Donald Sterling situation, local product Dusty Baker, Bruce Bochy, Shane Battier, who right now is leading the Indiana Pacers, his Miami Heat with 151 to go, 82-77, if you're curious. And Phil Jackson has been with us for a number of years. So basically what we've learned is that touching all of these constituencies are really important. So the euphemisms we use for double goal coaches, first goal is to win, but the second more important goal is to teach life lessons. For the parents, it's about being a second goal parent, reinforcing those life lessons and not sabotaging the coach of the team or second guessing or poisoning the kids' experience. The kids are not always going to get the job they want, they're not always going to get along with the professor, they need to understand how to get along in their work groups on and off the field. And then finally, for the kids, we talk about being a triple impact competitor, which are making themselves, their teammates, and the game overall better. So that's kind of the lens that we view it. A lot of the things that you see in sports Obviously, the collegiate and professional level, it's a lot about entertainment. And I think sometimes what's lost in a youth environment, that yes, winning is important, and it's not mutually exclusive with reinforcing and teaching life lessons. So an example of how we compare and contrast these things. So we talked about, basically, the scoreboard definition would be results. I've got a better jump shot than the chief, and mistakes are something to be avoided. John Wooden, one of the best coaches ever, says, I like players who make mistakes. It shows and demonstrates that we're trying, and we're trying to improve, and you've got to make mistakes to get better. And what we focus on is effort and learning. And multiple studies have shown that kids that focus on effort, learning, focused on the process, Ken Ravizza, the sports psychologist at Cal State Fullerton, if you focus on the process, the result will take care of itself. So we're not misled by the height and the glory of just winning, and just the scoreboard. And this is another concept that we talk about, is the emotional tank. Where are you with the emotional tank of each of your players, with each person in your family, with each person in your workplace? People will tend to perform better, have more confidence, stick with it longer when the gas tank is full as compared to when it's empty. Now, it's not only verbal communication that can drain the gas tank. Of course, it's that nonverbal communication when Mario Chalmers goes into the paint and throws the ball to the third row, and he gets looks from LeBron James or Spoelstra or his teammates, even much harangued by his teammates. Think about what that does to a 9, 10, 11-year-old kid that certainly is trying his or her best to please, to learn, and to get better. So in our workshops, we try to use this as a paradigm for the coaches to remember, and also with the kids as well, because I think that teamwork is certainly essential to their success now and as they progress through life. And then another acronym that we have is ROOTS. Real simple, basic stuff, but worthy of reinforcement. So we talk about the roots of honoring the game: respect for the rules, the opponents, the officials, teammates, and self. Real simple, but vital. And I think a lot of what PCA does is try to reinforce the culture that the schools, leagues, parks, and rec that we partner with, the culture that they want to espouse, the culture that they've already engendered and they want to reinforce. And we can do that successfully, particularly with, again, the latest concepts in sports psychology, but also with the videos of Doc Rivers in his office talking about how they'll pass on players of less character. They'll pass on players of less character that have more talent. More R's than S's. We need more players with character as opposed to character. So that can be pretty impressionable on not only young kids that are thriving to do well athletically and in the classroom, but also with parents and coaches. So a lot of it is about culture. We define it as the way we do things here. So you have a parent who's upset about playing time. Remember, at the PCA workshop, at the parent meeting, we talked about this is about the team, about getting better, about getting improvement. My job is to coach. Your job is to reinforce the life lessons. In this case, maybe the life lesson of not playing as much as your kid would want. That's basically a big premise of ours is culture, the way we do things here. And again, from Brad Stevens, Doc Rivers, Steve Clifford, with the Charlotte Bobcats, now Hornets, and a multitude, Randy Chastain, a multitude of individuals, Ronnie Lott. We have a lot of very successful and accomplished people that, again, buy into what we're doing, and we're exchanging and trading information with them. This is just a blurb on our impact. Hope I'm okay on time. And again, this is Summer Sanders, one of our other National Advisory Board members. Now, this is not going to play, but I'll paraphrase this one as well. And Summer Sanders is definitely better looking than I am. But anyway, talent for stating the obvious. But what she talks about here is, as I want to say 14 years old, she missed going to the Olympics by like a couple of tenths of a second. And she was ahead, and she wasn't expected to be. She got so caught up in that moment that she was going to make the Olympics and go that she forgot about the process. And she's in the pool, she's thinking of the height. And folks around her were really disappointed, but she looked at that as a gift. And this is before Summer Sanders was Summer Sanders. She was just another swimmer in the pool. And basically, she talks about that's a great gift that athletics gives you, is the ability to persevere, to bounce back. She talks about the great support of her parents that continually kept it fun, and it was never about necessarily winning or a college scholarship at Stanford, but really this was about her pursuit of having fun, again, teamwork, physical fitness, all the right things. They focused on the process, and of course, she ultimately got world-class results. But this video is really powerful with kids. So with that, I'll stop. I hope I'm within some type of time frame, because I really respect the time that you guys put in, and I'd be happy to entertain any questions that anyone would have.
Council?
That was high energy.
Yeah. And it was
That was high energy.
It gets us all awake.
Yeah, when they hired me, Peter Drucker, the late management guru, said that if you hire stupid people, pray they have a low energy level. When they gave me a job, I said, I'm not very bright, I have a lot of energy. This may be at your peril. Enough, thanks.
That was a good presentation. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thanks so much. And obviously, you can follow up with Armando. And, we'd love to have any staff or any of the audience at any of our workshops as well to see it live. But thanks very much for all that you're doing in the community, and thanks for having me tonight.
Awesome.
Thank you. Armando, when do we have these trainings for our coaches? When will we have these?
Traditionally have them right before our basketball season and before our softball, t-ball season. We've also had a summer one to catch the football coaches and soccer coaches, and that was with the help of another organization that had donated some money for the workshops. Bill's been great, his staff have been great. It's kind of hard to keep about 30 to 40 coaches interested, and you see how they are interested because they do great presentations, and we get a lot of good feedback from our coaches. Good training tips.
Great, awesome.
That's
Thank
great.
you very much.
We're really happy that we've partnered with them, and we'll continue to.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. What?
Yeah.
Are you going to jog off?
Yeah.
Councilmember Haywood. Okay. Thank you. Liz, would you please read the public comments?
I will. Under Government Code, Section 54954.3, members of the public may address the council on non-agenda items. Speakers may address council on any agenda item during consideration of the item. Speakers shall restrict their comments to issues that are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council and limit comments to a maximum of 3 minutes. Please fill out a speaker sheet located on the table inside the entrances to the council chambers and forward the completed speaker sheet to the city clerk. Vanessa Madrid? Go ahead and state your name too, Vanessa.
Vanessa Madrid. Thank you all for giving me allowing me some time to speak tonight. Tonight I'm offering a scholarship as a thank you to the youth committee. Mrs. Menezes, the former Galt High School career counselor, my mentor Dwayne Osherman, and former Mayor Payne. From the youth committee, I received a scholarship when I graduated from high school some time ago, and that scholarship enabled me to visit a 2-year women's school, Cotty College in Nevada, Missouri, where our city clerk, Liz Aguirre, also attended. I attended without needing student loans to scholarships. I then transferred to UC Davis, where I also attended without loans due to grants and scholarships. Starting in high school, I began training as an inspector for cell towers by my mentor. Vacations and summers allowed me to do contract work inspections and earn some extra cash. I really enjoyed the trade, but I always kept school as a priority. At the end of my freshman year of Cotty, I was able to leave early and fly to the Czech Republic and teach English at a private high school. My students ranged from 7 years old to 20 years old, and some were older than me. During the second year at Cotty, the school took the entire class to England for an international exposure. Once I transferred back to Davis after finishing my time at Cotty, I was able to serve as an intern at the California Legislature, where I learned much about politics and law, and that's where I learned that I wanted to pursue law. I graduated with a double major, but we all know what the job situation was like back in 2012, and even now. A wireless contract firm immediately picked me up, and now I'm the quality control and safety manager at a contract firm that employs about 96 people. I recently learned that I'm the only female in the large AT&T system for contract field workers. All these steps were due to help from my network of friends, and the Galt Youth Committee was a good part of that. Tonight, it is an honor to present a small scholarship to Angelica Martin, a young woman who aspires to be an electrical engineer. We need more women in the technical field, and I wish to encourage Ms. Martin. I wish I could do more, but I'm saving for law school. Thanks to all who have helped me on my path to success. Ms. Martin.
That's just great.
Thank you to the council for allowing me some minutes.
Well, thank you, you're a remarkable young
got
woman,
it.
and if you can
Amazing.
pass that on to the young lady that you just gave the scholarship for, then you're paying it forward, and it's awesome.
That's great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Wow, what a great meeting so far. I'm tired. That was great. That's what.
Al Baldwin? I thought
I
it was on.
love seeing our
Oh,
young.
never
young
mind Al
people.
Baldwin. Never mind. Okay, on to the information and consent calendar. Liz, would you please read the 5 items?
Okay, 5 items tonight. Number 1, approval of the minutes of the special and regular meetings of May 6, 2014. Number 2, approval of the City of Galt warrants. Number 3, 2014 general municipal election regarding costs. Number 4, 2014 general municipal election regarding consolidation. And number 5, authorize award of on-call master task order agreements for construction materials testing and specialty inspection services.
Okay, do I have a motion?
Move the items.
Second?
Second.
Call for the vote, please.
Vice Mayor Singleton?
Aye.
Councilmember Payne?
Aye.
Councilmember Campion?
Aye.
Councilmember Cruz?
Aye.
Mayor Powers?
Aye. Now we're into the City Attorney's Office, ordinance repealing Chapter 9.39 of the Galt Municipal Code, sex offenders proximity to children's facilities. Steve.
Good evening again, Mayor and council members. The city's had an ordinance on its books since about 2006 that imposed some local regulations on sex offenders and their ability to be in proximity to certain types of facilities. Within the last several months, there's been litigation down in Southern California against a couple of communities that had similar laws on their books. And unfortunately, the result of those 2 court cases was a determination that the state legislation relating to sex offenders preempts local sex offender legislation. And what that means is that the body of state law that regulates sex offenders takes precedence over any law that local communities can put on their books. And in fact, we no longer, pursuant to these cases, have the ability to legislate in this area. The Penal Code imposes approximately 12 restrictions on sex offenders' daily lives, including registration, local monitoring, a prohibition on entering parks frequented by children if the victim was under 14 years of age. There's restrictions on residing within certain proximity to schools and parks for certain types of offenders. So I don't want to leave the impression that by the elimination of this local ordinance that there are not many tools that continue to be at our disposal to protect the folks that reside within our community, and that are resources that can be used by our police department as the need arises. But if we don't in fact eliminate this this ordinance from our municipal code, we will most likely face litigation in order to try to keep it on our books, and based upon these recent cases, the ability to defend that litigation would be very questionable. So with that, my recommendation this evening is that you introduce an ordinance, waive first reading, and read by title only an ordinance repealing Chapter 9.39 of the Galton Municipal Code regarding sex offenders' proximity to children's facilities.
Do I have any questions, council? Okay, do I have a...
I do have a question.
Sorry, folks, I had a real tough time with this, but I do understand the legal side of it. Chief, if you know, do you know how many registered sex offenders we have here in our town? And I know we do a lot of checking up on them, and they're being compliant. What is the number? I mean, are they, for the most part, being compliant? Or would we had to arrest any of them for violation?
Not recently. We do compliance checks as far as the people we have, the exact number that are considered to be a 290 registrant. I do not have that figure as far as the exact amount, but we do compliance checks on them.
Okay. All right. That's all I had. I just need, like I said, it's been real tough for me because I certainly want folks to understand I am in no way acceptable of folks that have done the wrong thing, whatever their offense might have been, to be hanging around these parks and stuff. But on the other side of it, I understand that we don't need to spend a lot of money on litigation if we have other avenues and other tools to help us to make sure that they stay compliant as a 290 registered. Thank you, Chief.
And I think that the rest of the council pretty much feels the same way. So, do we have a motion? So moved.
Second.
Call for the vote, please, Liz.
Vice Mayor Singleton?
Aye.
Councilmember Payne?
Aye.
Councilmember Campion?
Aye.
Councilmember Cruz?
Aye.
Mayor Powers?
Aye. Now we're down to the police department. Supplemental Police Services Expenditure Plan for Residual Measure R Fund Balance. Chief Bowen.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight, Lieutenant Kalinowski will be presenting our expenditure plan.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. I'm here to present the agenda item that was just announced regarding our Measure R expenditure plan for our residual funds that we currently hold in that fund. And this is a point of clarification. There were 5, we live and we die by technology, right? So there were 5 words taken off for some reason the first page of the staff report. At the bottom it should have said remain dedicated to police services. It appeared on my version on my desktop, for some reason doesn't want to print on the printer, so I'll figure that one out. But anyways, if anybody from the public would like a correct copy, it is there, and I know I provided one on the dais to the members of the council. So we're here this evening on a couple items. The first is a little background on this. As you know, in 2008, the citizens of Galt voted to approve Measure R, which imposed a half-cent sales tax for public safety. And that ordinance, which is found in 3.40.140 of the ordinance, talks about amendments to that expenditure plan and when not, or when that cannot occur. And specifically, it says the council may not amend the expenditure plan until such a time that all new police personnel proposed in the expenditure plan are funded. And currently, the 5 police officers and the 2 dispatcher positions in the original plan are funded positions, as you are aware. So since those positions are currently funded, the expenditure plan at the discretion of the council can be amended for the residual funds, and we are proposing that tonight. Recently, the City Council approved an MOU with the school districts allowing the use of awarded COPS funds to add school resource officers into the school. Part of that cost is borne by the city. It's a split between the city, as you remember, the school district, and the grant funds that we were awarded. Because we have to keep the staff on 1 year beyond the grant period, so for a 4th year, the total city cost for both positions, should both positions be implemented by the city, and currently only one position has been done so by the council. That total cost over the 4-year period, our cost would be $447,600. So that's part of the request tonight in the spend down of funds that we're asking for in the Measure R residual fund balance. And if I may, I would just like to direct council to some additional items that the management team at the police department have identified as priorities to address some long-standing issues we've been unable to address in the organization. And so before I start with some of these part-time budget administrative positions that we're requesting on a part-time basis, I did some research, and back in 1990, the city of Galt was about 9,000 people. It had 9 police officers, 4 sergeants, 2 lieutenants, a chief, and an admin assistant. And today, the city is about 25,000, almost triple that size. With both SRO positions, would have 30 police officers, 7 sergeant positions, and still 2 lieutenants, a chief, and an admin assistant. So as you know, there are incredible challenges with the population growth and the staff growth in the organization in order for management to be able to maintain, cultivate, mentor, retain staff, and we're doing that currently with the same staffing we had 24 years ago. So with that, we've proposed and requested a part-time budget / administrative analyst, and in the written documents, but for the benefit of the public, this has been identified as the greatest need within the department. It's our #1 priority. This person would work on grants, grant management, budget preparation and maintenance, and other related projects such as the department annual report and the CALEA certification process that I'll talk about a little bit later. This position is estimated to be a 2-year position based on the project cost of $54,000. The second position is a professional standards temporary employee over the same duration. This would be a retired police department manager or executive in a law enforcement agency, so their hours would be limited to something in the area of 25 hours a week, the maximum hours that somebody could work for the 999 hours at a part-time status in the city. This person would be focused on our background investigations, our internal affairs investigation, administrative reviews, policy reviews, organizational audits, and other associated work, and also be partially responsible for the CALEA certification that I again will mention shortly. Lastly, in the temporary staff, as you know, and when I talked about in 1990 what we had, obviously nothing Gore had invented the internet yet. Isn't Hagee the one that claimed it? Anyway, so we didn't have, obviously, IT support in the police department in 1990 like we need currently. And so we're asking for IT contracted support through the IT department to provide some ongoing support to address our infrastructure needs that we have currently. We have turnaround times that we need on our vehicles for our computers in the cars, in our dispatch center and other places, which with the current staffing and the requirement citywide is a struggle for them to accomplish. Understandably, this would allow us to have some dedicated staff to turn around these projects and be more efficient as a police organization. The next item talks about the school resource officer. I think we beat that to death in other meetings, but there's a dialogue about that. Should I need to come back to that, I'd be happy to. Those are the personnel positions that we've requested over the next 2-year budget to help address some of those needs as a management team that I explained before. Do you want me to stop there, Madam Mayor, or do you want me to continue on through the capital and then deal with questions and public comment?
I'd say we continue to the end, please. And
Yes, ma'am. Okay. So under capital equipment, we've identified some items, and the vehicle replacement program is one of those items. As you know, the SRO program, they are going to need a vehicle to use. That's additional staff into the police department. So there's funding for an SRO vehicle. There's funding in there for participation based on our MOU about equipment with Elk Grove for a purchase of a vehicle they're making. Their vehicle is a $35,000 van without equipment. This is a small portion of that cost that we're requesting to pay, something we haven't done organizationally, so it's an enhancement. And then the last thing is the replacement of some CAPS vehicles. Historically, what we've always done is we've rolled out these old cars and given them to the CAPS, but because of the recession, we've run the current fleet so high, frankly not appropriate to then pass those cars off to the cabs. They're not fuel efficient, they're not reliable, and we're spending time and effort maintaining a fleet of cars that's, that some of those vehicles are nearly 20 years old. So that gives us the ability to purchase some lightly used, fuel efficient, economical vehicles that are more appropriate for what our CAPS volunteers are currently doing. The P25 compliant radio system, pretty straightforward, but as you know, the move to digital communication, there's 2016 chief or 2017, we have a requirement to move to the P25 compliant radio system with our radios in the cars and on our portables and in the comm center. This is only an encumbrance of a small portion of that overall responsibility, but we felt it necessary to pre-plan for that expenditure, and so that is placed there. Crime scene investigations and the training, I'll take all as one. Currently, for our more major crimes, we use the Sacramento County, their crime lab, and their team to come out and address those high-profile things that happen from time to time in the community. Currently, we're not being charged for some of those services. I don't know that that will last forever, but to be proactive, and because this is something we haven't done, Measure R is an appropriate use of this, is we want to create some ability to do some crime scene investigations locally. That doesn't mean we still wouldn't use Sacramento County or another allied agency for some of that crime scene work, but this gives us the ability to have that equipment locally and address some of those investigations. We can get a pretty in-depth residential burglary, ransack burglary, where we can spend a couple hours doing fingerprinting and things like that. This gives us the ability to deploy that equipment and the staffing to do that. Now we're down to our CALEA national accreditation process. The Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement Agencies is a self-assessment process to systematically conduct an internal review and assessment of the agency's policies and procedures and make adjustments wherever necessary to meet a body of internationally accepted standards. Sounds real good, I didn't write that. It's ripped off. But nevertheless, this creates greater accountability within our agency, reduces risk and liability exposure, increases defense and civil liability lawsuits, increases agency support from you, government officials, and improves our community advocacy. Excuse me. We're almost done. The CopLogic online reporting system. This gives us the ability to have a software platform for residents to report minor crimes, things like I lost my cell phone and Verizon requires me to have a case number in order to get a new cell phone. They can do this 24 hours a day. Or other minor crimes that our officers would respond to. At some point we might hear something about, well, we need to be deploying all the money possible for frontline law enforcement. This actually allows us to free up some of the time to our existing staff, so it's a force multiplier to some degree. And this cost of the $23.5 for the system, and then the annual maintenance of $1,500 is a small deposit on being more efficient organizationally without having to add the additional staff to absorb that workload. So that CopLogic is best business practices in terms of software platform. Most agencies use it, and it's another tool for the public to access us to report crimes. Our mobile browser computer terminal replacement. These are in our current Measure R cars. Some of those computers are 8 and 9 years old, and this just upgrades the equipment in the existing Measure R cars. This is not a supplanting general fund responsibility for those vehicles. So this cost addresses those vehicles. LiDAR units, it's not something we currently have. We have a traditional radar unit in the community. LiDARs, you may see CHP on the side of the freeway more frequently with these units. Gives us the ability to more accurately track, catch, and enforce the speeding laws in the community. These LiDAR units, it's the purchase of those units. Trauma kits for patrol vehicles is something we haven't had in the past, and this allows us to have an appropriate trauma kit for active shooter incidents or other critical incidents that occur, to provide some basic first aid, tourniquets, things that stopping the bleeding, that kind of stuff, beyond sort of a first aid kit. And this outfits all our patrol vehicles and our detective cars and some other vehicles that could be, first on scene locally. Lastly, the Web EOC. This is a program that actually all of Sacramento County belongs to. It's a virtual emergency operations center platform where all jurisdictions are plugged in. Should we run up our EOC for an incident, we can track what's happening in other jurisdictions. They can see what's happening locally. And the biggest piece is all that paperwork and tracking that goes on for reimbursement requests to our friends in the federal government, so we get the appropriate refunds of our funds. It allows us to do that more in a streamlined process, and then there's some cross-checking that can occur with other jurisdictions who we don't have duplicate claims and those types of things. This is only for the sort of the software licensing that we are required to pay. We did not include it in the budget because it's an enhancement, and this is just not a police department item. This is a public works, could be Parks and Rec with the cooling centers or the heating centers that we use. I mean, it's across for all departments, but it allows us to be on the same platform with our partners across the county. And again, in big bold, this does not take away from the 7 sworn and 2 dispatch positions that are currently funded. This is a residual. It's not, at least, a place where we can use these funds on an ongoing expense because we don't have the revenue stream to support something if we committed to something on an ongoing basis. That's why the grant positions are funded through here. Projected, the measure our fund balance is noted in this report is nearly $1.4 million as of this year. This could potentially spend 1.1 of those monies, leaving about $300,000 left after year 4, should the council elect to add the section SRO position and the city manager give us the green line for these encumbrances we're asking for today. And so I guess what I want to underline with that is these are requests from the police department. I know that things happen in the course of business and other things are going on with negotiations and things like that, and council will make policy decisions. Then obviously with those decisions that are made in the future with these encumbrances, we would adjust accordingly. I hope that's clear. So that doesn't mean because the council, this is more of a, the council agrees with the management and chief's assessment of our needs to encumber these funds. It doesn't mean July 2nd we go out and spend $1.1 million on stuff. It gives us the ability to plan for that over the next 2-year period. And should the city manager, who's the gatekeeper of everything I do, say no, we don't do that. So I just want to be clear about that. So that is the report. There's some other things about claiming and realizing revenue off the grant, but I'll save everybody from that.
Okay.
That's all I have. If there's any questions, I know there's probably public comment, but I take any questions.
I think council usually reserves till after public comments.
They'll come back.
Okay with you, so don't go far apparently. And we have Al Baldwin.
Good evening, council and everybody, even the police department. Good evening, presentation, by the way. If anybody wants safety in this town, it's me. Anything we can get. Now,
Al, talk into the microphone.
let me mention something. I'm going to read something because I only have 3 minutes, so I'm going to try and read it. I was going to not read it, and I may not cover everything I want, but it sure sounds like you need a lot of stuff. And when Measure R was voted in about 5.5 years ago, the intent was to get more police officers in golf because the general fund could not afford more officers. A lot of cities were laying off their police officers and we were considering the same. It was hard times, big time. The intent was to put more officers on the street for safety without using the general fund monies. Now we are on the comeback and the income from the taxes is working. We have 7 officers plus more safety on the streets. This money cow is producing more all the time. So now the city wants to start adding more use for this funding. The council can amend Measure R to fit its needs. But by changing the intent, sometimes I feel that we are trying to supplement the general fund. Before Measure R, the police and the city was getting grants and budgeting the money needed for funds and extras. I remember they were getting money for cars and a lot of other stuff. We're getting new retail stores and homes in the city to help with what the small city needs. But if extra taxes are there, why not work around it and use information from Measure R? Sounds good, right? People have tried to rewrite the Constitution to meet what they want, and even try to interpret the Declaration of Independence. And don't forget the Bible that this country was founded on. Many of its statements were used to begin this country. Let me ask you, what was the intent of the Bible or even the Constitution? Has any supplement to the Bible or the Constitution helped the nation? Money is not the root of all evil, but the love of money is. Why would you need an amendment if it was allowed by Measure R? Are you changing the intent that it was up for by expanding and expressing different areas you can use this money for? The city still hasn't completed its officers yet, I don't believe. I think you still need 7 officers, 5 officers or something for the city, not Measure R. Measure R is done. But you still have to do that. But yet you're still coming tonight to ask for a vote of approval for this without that even being done. You can't do anything unless it was all done. I know you have them in the background, but you can't do anything until that's officially done. I don't think. That's me personally. I could be totally wrong. I'm not here to criticize the police department in any way whatsoever. They've done an excellent job and they're going to continue doing it. I just want to be here because you see there's a ton of citizens out there ready to come up here and say something.
Your
Not
time's
very
up,
many,
Al.
and I know, and I appreciate the time. I'm just here to sort of prod you and chat you and wake you up sometimes. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Al.
Thanks, Al.
Councilmember Cruz?
2 things. First, I'll go back to what you were bringing up, Brian. Are you telling me that we haven't had trauma kits in our police vehicles since 2000? Because that was the last time we had trauma kits assigned to the vehicles.
Yeah, and those are the black with the red
With the red-
zipper.
yeah.
This is a more comprehensive, those were a plug the hole, for lack of a better terminology, on a gunshot victim. This allows us to do a little more dynamic first aid on scene.
Okay.
And after we've had some, it came up after we had obviously 2 unfortunate incidents, and we want to make sure that we're ultimately equipped to address them immediately.
And to go back to the Measure R issue, and Tony, since you're here, both of the 2 members of Measure R, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the way Measure R was designed was for bringing on the officers and dispatchers, and then afterwards providing the equipment and retention of those officers. Am I correct? Okay. So I honestly think it has to go through you first, and you've approved it.
The Measure R
No, they don't approve.
subcommittee, unless you want to.
Yeah,
We brought it
they're-
to the Measure R subcommittee and let them know what we were coming forward on our list of things that we would be asking through the city manager to the city council. So I guess I'll leave it at that. And so
Yeah.
they heard the items, they asked some questions, but they did not want to take a position on that. They feel that the most appropriate position was to verify that what we're doing is in compliance with Measure R and pass it to the city council for the decision. I think
That's what Measure R does.
Right. So-
I was on Measure R, so I know that.
So I
it's
guess the
just-
question I'm throwing out there is it is in compliance, am I correct? Yes, sir.
Good evening, and I really wasn't here to speak. We, as part of Measure R, we were provided this report and we took it as an informational report to review the plan that PD had, and only that, because that is our obligation, is basically to review what is currently as part of the budget to make sure that expenditures are according. Beyond that, anything that is brought forth really is not for us to provide opinion on. So your question was specific to?
Basically, I'm looking, when you guys reviewed it, you had no issues with it. I'm trying to get input.
Okay. Well, as member of Measure R, I really can't give you that opinion. I don't want to because I wasn't put in place to do that.
Right.
It would be unfair for me to comment either way based on the fact that we are, at that point, we're functioning just to review the budget as it stands based on what currently is City Council's approval of the expenditures. And that was all I want to comment about that part.
Right. I understand that, but I know that council's responsibility is the retasking when the time comes necessary, but I was just trying to figure out whether Measure R, the committee itself, had some input on it. And you've answered my question.
We had no input.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Lara.
I think that was it.
That's all I had. I just didn't get that clarified.
Thank you.
Now, council, anyone else?
Yeah, I understand what's being proposed. I'm not sure I fully agree with the expenditure plan because it raises some questions, in my mind at least. When you look at the SRO positions, they're funded for up to, 3 years, including the grant funds?
3 years plus 1 year we have to hold them, so it'll be a 4-year term.
And at that time, we let them go? Is that the plan, or what's the plan? Because in reading the report, it appears that is not answered.
Because we're in negotiations with the POA on a schedule change that will allow us to address that issue in the future. That's about the best I can say.
Right. That's one of the reasons why we're not recommending funding both positions at this time. I think we're amending the plan to allow the opportunity in the future to do so, but this does not authorize both positions. It only authorizes one position, which is what the council previously approved. And the thought on that also is 4 years. We have revenue growth in Measure R with new stores coming online and other things, and hopefully we'd be able to continue to support those positions once the grant money runs out.
I guess my next question is, these are all supplemental appropriations. Is there a reason why this wasn't done as part of the normal budget? I mean, this money's been in the budget, was in the budget, but why wasn't it planned for expenditure?
Because we didn't have, I'm not sure if I'm...
No, this money's not in the budget.
It's the residual fund. This is not the existing ongoing plan that we're modifying.
Okay, if it's a residual fund, but how long have we had $1 million?
Well, it grows every year. Correct.
Right, so we've had this 1.3 million, I believe.
But we needed to wait until we had all the positions funded. Measure R requires that we had all 7 positions and 2 dispatch positions funded. So even though we've been accumulating a fund balance, we couldn't come back to the council to make any amendments to the plan until all those positions were funded.
Are they filled? I understand the difference between funded and there's a difference between funded and filled.
Right. So we have 1 police officer position in Measure R that's open, and we have 1 dispatcher position in Measure R that's funded. That's open. But both of those positions are funded, and as soon as we can get somebody in there, and that's the polygraph, background, psychological, that process ongoing.
I guess I don't understand. If we had the residual funds available, these positions would have been funded some time ago.
I think this is the first fiscal year that we had them all funded. I think we added the 7th position as part of this last year's budget.
And the grant we accepted mid-year this year, and we just agreed to the MOU with the school district, so we couldn't, on the SRO positions, make an ask on the SROs because the grant was just awarded in October, and then we were going back and forth with the school district on the appropriate support and where they wanted to go with this, and so, there was some time lag, and then about 6 or 2 months ago, 6 weeks or 2 months ago, you approved the MOU piece, and then we're running around doing the regular budget, and this supplement ahead of, you hearing the regular budget, they'll be merged together, but this SRO piece is what we have planned to start on July 1st for the selection we made for that SRO.
The two part-time positions, the budget analyst and the standards contract services, what's the long-term plan for those 2 positions?
Well, the first and foremost is we want to get the CALIA accreditation. Because we have a body of policy, but we don't have clean procedures. One example we've given to one council member, so we'll share with everybody is, you know, what is the procedure for maintaining the emergency generator at the police department? So when the power goes out and the generator doesn't kick on, where was the procedure in place to verify that we had a compliance check from the appropriate venue that does that? There are, in the most trivial operations within the organization, procedures that we need to implement. It's not going to happen with 2 lieutenants and a chief and an admin assistant in the police department. It's just not a process that we're not going to be able to address globally for all those procedure issues we need to overcome. So
the answer to my question is what happens to these 2 positions?
So these 2 positions are temporary for the 2-year cycle. If they are proved successful and we have the revenue on the Measure R existing side where we have the 7 officers and the 2 dispatchers, it's likely at least on one, if not both, we would come back in the second phase of the plan where we had new revenue available. I mean, we don't know where we are with Walmart and some of those, and so we would plug those in. We don't have the revenue stream for that, and there's other talks going on, so we don't want to encumber those funds. So we're waiting to see how that ends.
On your capital purchases for the vehicles?
Yes, sir.
170,000. How many vehicles is that?
That's 4 CAPS vehicles, a patrol vehicle, and the contribution to the SWAT vehicle. A new patrol vehicle purchased and outfitted from the ground up is $50,000.
And then the CAPS vehicles, what are you?
That's four CAPS vehicles at $20,000 a CAPS vehicle, with $5,000 for outfitting, which is putting the radios and the amber lights on the dash and those kinds of things, and the stickers on the doors. And then the $15,000 for the SWAT vehicle.
Right.
We talked about. And I know, there's one time and one place to address this. So, it can kind of feel like, why is the police department asking for 10 things? Well, we have 5, 6 years of built up issues that have come up over time that haven't been able to be addressed. And this is the time and the place to talk about the residual revenue that hasn't been spent that's there on the fund balance. So, absent kind of piecemealing and coming one at a time, we're coming to one place at one time to ask for the encumbrance.
Anyone else?
I did have a question on the CopLogix online reporting system.
Yes, sir.
How was that made available to the public? How do they become aware of that?
So it would be what we would do, media alerts and make people aware of it.
Is this it's an online process?
It's an online. If you went to the police department website, you can click on the online reporting. And then there's other things where you can look at crimes reported in your neighborhood and other pieces of info.
That's all I have.
Okay. Councilmember Payne.
Well, let me just say that I think I gave you a dress rehearsal for tonight. I was concerned that just because we have money, that we were looking for some way to spend it. And so I think we spent about an hour together, the chief and lieutenant, and I went over every single item with them. And I was convinced that it was an item that was needed and that was in support of our police officers when we got through. And I went in there wanting explanations, and thank you for your time. And what I guess the point I got out of it is you can put the police officers out there, in the field, but if they don't have the right support, then they can't do the job that they're supposed to do. And support means a lot of things. And that's what I feel like that this is. And when I got through talking to them with all their patience and explaining things, because a lot of it I didn't understand what the heck it was, I was convinced that this was the right thing to do. And I want to thank you for your time and just say that I do support this program.
Thank you. And I hope people understand that this isn't, myself and Lieutenant Rizzuti and the chief are not, kind of pulling a fast one. We're telling you kind of where our organizational weaknesses are, and these are organizational enhancements. And what I've heard early in office since I've been here the last 10 months is there's an expectation that the police department will deliver. We already deliver a very good service, but the professionalism and the accountability that, people want that benchmark to continue to be approved and to continue to raise that bar. This program helps us do that. It doesn't solve all our problems, but it's the ones that we think we can achieve over a 2-year period and show some marked improvement. So we are more efficient. And when we have officers, and this is, it is just what it is, officers who are frustrated and looking to go to other agencies, we can say, look, we have best business practices that are nationally accredited. We have the right support system in place. We have the procedures and policies that, again, as I allude to, are best business practices. So we are doing sound business on a daily basis. So if your choice is, if those are one of your motivations, then we've knocked sort of that concern out of the box. And I think that helps us in the retention of officers, because it's not all about dollars and cents.
Right. Vice Mayor Singleton, you had one little thing to add? Or?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to ask Lieutenant Kalinowski, how are we going to staff some of these new things? Because you mentioned on here the crime scene equipment and the cop logic. Who's going to? Do we have somebody already in the department, or are we going to work somebody into answering when people make the online complaints, or are we going to have our detectives trained, or are we going to have a new CSI unit to do the crime investigation part of it, if hopefully, God willing, we don't have to? Could you answer me that, please?
Yes, on CopLogic, there's a process where that report will be routed to the supervisor. The supervisor who reviews the officer's reports will review the online reports. There's a mechanism to assign a case number and be referred to records and or investigations, depending on, very few of those go to investigations because these are minor crimes. If there's a situation where a suspect's identified or there's follow-up information, it'll be routed to a beat officer for follow-up.
Okay.
So that's the internal process that works. Other than you having IT help us establish that platform and get it on the website, I mean, that's the work to get it going. The crime scene, we currently have one CSO that does some crime scene work, but the hope is that we will get as collateral duties, either detectives or officers who are interested in doing crime scene processing and leverage their desire and training and experience that we'll give them through the training to participate in that. Not everybody sort of likes that CSI stuff you see on TV, but some people do enjoy that work and want to be more involved in it, kind of like traffic. And so that's what we'll do. We'll make it a collateral duty within the organization.
So you're creating more opportunities for growth and knowledge. That's awesome. That's great. Thank you very much, Lieutenant. I appreciate your information. Thank you.
Well, I always get the last 2 cents worth in. And that was pretty good, I might add. I'm going to go along with a lot of things that Barbara said. We can't keep throwing our policemen out on the street if we don't give them the tools to do their job. And this is a job that you have to be up to date on the things you need to do. You can't be driving around in cars that don't work or having equipment that doesn't operate. So when you do get some funding to get a lot of things done is a great opportunity. So I'm totally for all of this also. So with that, Liz, do you want to read the very long recommendation? There you go.
Okay.
Yes, you may.
Okay. The recommendation, oh my gosh. Number 1, adopt a resolution approving a supplemental police services expenditure plan for the use of residual Measure R funds in the amount of $1,100,600 to fund up to 2 additional SRO positions consistent with the recent approval of an MOU with the school districts and other critical needs of the police department. These funds will allow the police department to increase its efficiency, accountability, and effectiveness. Number 2, approve the budget change form appropriating funds in the total amount of $669,581 in expenditures and $85,202 in revenues in fiscal year 2014-15, and $239,200 in expenditures and $87,867 in revenues in fiscal year 2015-16. The cost for 2014-15 reflects the funding of one SRO position at $128,736 and $98,345 in temporary contract positions and capital at $442,500. The cost for 2015-16 reflects funding for one SRO position at $134,065, capital at $6,500, and temporary contract positions at $98,635. And number 3, authorize the finance director to process the appropriate budget changes to reflect the intent of items number 1 and number 2.
Great, thank you very much. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Second. Call for the vote, please, Liz.
Vice Mayor Singleton?
Aye.
Councilmember Payne?
Aye.
Councilmember Campion?
Aye.
Councilmember Cruz?
Aye.
Mayor Powers?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Okay. Okay. I just tore a page out, got all lost in the process. We're at the city clerk's report. Liz, you want to tell us a little bit about the community benefits funding, and then we'll do a little discussion.
Okay. Back in 2012, Council directed staff to develop a policy and application process that would allow Galt local nonprofits to apply for funding. Last year, the City Council awarded the grant to 2 different organizations under this new program. This year, staff prepared the application process, advertised, and placed on the website, and received 4 applications. Let me go over the groups real quick and just of the proposed use of funds. L'Haim of Galt to purchase fabric and essentials to make quilts for local families, homeless, women's shelters, Sutter Hospital. History Makers for startup fees to increase the after-school program from 1 day per week to 5 days per week, which would include TVs, game systems, tablets. The Galt Area Historical Society for new restrooms, to construct additional restroom facilities in the South Lawn area where events take place. And Project Love, provide groceries from the food pantry, hand out groceries on a regular basis, and continue to feed the homeless in the area. You have a couple alternatives in front of you. One is not to award any funding. Number 2, award the entire $10,000 to one group. Or number 3, distribute $10,000 or a portion thereof to 2 or more organizations. This time I could answer any questions. There is at least one group in the audience, maybe more. So.
Yeah, I think I know we've all read them, correct? Did you all do your homework?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So, does anybody have any thoughts? Anybody want to step forward first?
I would propose approving a request.
You know, Kurt, I can't hear you. Can you
I'm sorry.
please put that?
I would propose as a motion the request of the Galt Area Historical Society.
Say that again.
I would propose approving the request by the Galt Area Historical Society.
Which
As a
was
form of
what?
motion.
Okay.
$8,000.
Okay, I think before we do any motions and stuff, is that okay if we hear what everybody has to say, or else we're going to have them?
Sure, no, that's
Okay.
fine. That's fine.
And you might have, I don't have any speaker sheets, but I think everyone
That's fine. Anyone else have any comments? We'll start, okay, Councilmember Payne, we'll go with you.
Yeah, I think we've heard a lot tonight about the needs of the community, the human needs. I would like for us to be able to give something to each of the groups that have asked, rather than give it all to one. I think that L'Haim, for example, does has a good program for the people. And there's so many things that the city is not able, services that we're able to give to the community. And I appreciate these other groups taking up the slack. The same way with the history makers. What their plans are and what they're trying to do for our young people, of course, is very important. We've heard from Jan Scully tonight how important that is. The Historical Society, I understand what they're trying to do, and they've been a big asset to the community. I wouldn't disregard them as well. And Project Love, you know, whether we want to admit it or not, we do have people out there that need help. They're maybe not the most attractive people, but they do need food, they do need dignity, and these are the things I think are important. My suggestion would be to give $3,000 to each of the, I'm going to say, more human requests, Project Love, L'Haim, History Makers, and give $1,000 towards the restroom at McFarland, knowing that McFarland does have alternatives. They do have other restrooms out there, and when we get more money, maybe we can help more. But these are my thoughts.
Yeah, it's kind of a shame that we're such a small community here. We could use CDBG funds for helping nonprofits and stuff, but we're always caught between a rock and a hard place, and it just is very discouraging because we do have so many people out there in need, and we have so many people that are working on very small budgets and trying to help a large group. Councilmember Singleton, what's your thoughts?
Well, my thought actually is to split it, because during my research, I'm finding that I think Project Love still has money on the books they have not utilized at this time. Also, we gave them a grant last year, and I'm glad they were able to use it. But my thought was to split it amongst one, because as Ms. Payne had said, History Makers, one of my passions is helping these young kids out. And not only History Makers, but the Historical Society also does that.
Every kid in school.
Yes, they give them the wisdom, and history is so important, at least in my eyes, in this town. And these people that run the Historical Society can give them first-hand knowledge of some of that history. And then L'Haim is another one that's just a great organization. So I'm sorry it's a little long, but I would rather just split it between the three. And
Which three would that be?
that would be the Historical Society, History Makers, and L'Haim.
Okay,
That's my proposal.
we've heard everybody's proposal, but yours is mine, so what are your thoughts? Do you have thoughts? Oh, I didn't mean it that way. What are your thoughts?
I have no thoughts, it's empty up here. Actually, I heard part of it out there, but I tend to agree with Councilmember Singleton and Councilmember Campion that our youth is important, and to be very honest with you, the two that benefit the youth the most out there of this group that I'm seeing is History Makers, and I mean, it's fledgling, it's just starting off, so they need the help. And our Historical Society. And L'Haim, I can't say enough about those ladies. They're just full of energy, so I would stick with what you were saying.
Okay, so you're in agreement with
Councilmember Singleton.
to divide it between History Makers, L'Haim, and Galt, the Historical Society?
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to at least, here's my take on it then, because to think dividing up is, if we gave $3,000, I would hate to leave Project Love out just because I think $1,000 would be okay, so my thought was, here we go. My thought is like give 3, 3, 3, and 1. Does anybody entertain any motions here?
I would so move that.
Oh, okay.
Your suggestion.
Oh.
Councilman Singleton, you said there are monies still available in Project Love. Do you know how much that is? I'm on.
I believe there's still $500 on the books.
515 change.
Okay.
They were allocated, what, 2,500 last year?
2,500.
Right.
Are we still having a discussion? Do we
Oh,
have
and
a
I'm waiting
motion
to
and
see
do we have
if
a
Councilman
second?
Campion's finished yet.
So you're suggesting 3,000, 3,000, or 1,000?
3,000, 3,000, I just didn't want to leave out Project One. That was,
Well, I guess I look at it, every one of these organizations is important and serves
Sure,
a
sure.
critical purpose in the community. My focus has been looking at what historically, no pun intended, the Historical Society has done in this community, and the number of children that they have touched that go through the elementary school system in this city. Almost every single child is exposed. I don't think that you have that wide of net with any of the other organizations, and I think that they provide a very vital and useful purpose. And I would certainly like to see a higher amount allocated to that, but I don't know that the rest of the council is going to see it that way.
I'd like to make one more comment.
okay.
What I understand the Historical Society is asking for is the bathroom. That's what their money is to go
A
to.
portion of it, to accommodate the individuals and the events that go on out there. That's correct.
And I would just say, I think those events can still go on with or without this additional bathroom. I've been out there many times. There are other bathrooms. And I think it's something that is a good idea. I just think for the limited amount of money that we have and the needs that we have of the people should be considered too. Bathroom, food.
Well, and another thing is, you know, everything you say up here is going to make somebody mad. Yeah, it is, but, you know, we've given $10,000 for years and years and years to the Historical Society, and you know, where there are other groups, and because they don't have, the other groups don't have as big a net, doesn't mean that the need isn't out there for some of these other things. You know, we've got seniors, kids, and food. I mean, that's some pretty good things.
Well, I think it's also important to note that the track record of the society has been extremely good. They
Right.
have fulfilled and done exactly what they said they would do each and every year. They come and give us an annual report. So I think that that is also very important, and also to be considered that, not to say that these other groups, but I think that they have a very, true and proven track record, and the city did make promissory commitments, whether it was legal or not, or apparently it wasn't. I mean, they had indicated that $10,000 would go to the society for as long as the society asked for it. But then the council made changes 2 years ago,
Right.
and you had the right to do that. But I still think it was disingenuous on the part of the city.
Well, here's another.
Let's not backtrack.
I guess we'll take offense at that or whatever, but some of these, L'Haim has done a great job and never asked for anything.
I agree.
They're out there helping preemies, they're going to, so these people have struggled and see a chance to get just a little bit from some of the city, and they do a heck of a job also, and everybody's trying to work on getting more things for kids, because there's nothing going on in this town, even after school, that we can help children with, and we do have homeless people and people that need food. Barbara, you wanted to say one more thing.
Oh, just that I was on the council the year that this came up, and I don't recall voting on this $10,000 to be used exclusively for the Historical Society forever. Maybe I'm not remembering correctly, but I don't recall voting in that way.
And I think you were the only one on the committee then, none of the rest of us were.
I don't want to debate it.
Yeah, let's not debate it.
It's-
And Randy,
it's
you have, speaking of the Historical Society, come on down, Randy.
So just as a point of order, Mayor,
Uh-huh.
so there's no motion on the floor, that's my
Yeah, there was,
understanding.
well, there wasn't.
There is a motion, no second.
There wasn't, was there a second? No.
We got into discussion.
Probably need a second.
So if we have the motion on the floor, are we gonna,
Okay, you're the.
my recommendation is if you're gonna take public testimony, that the motion be withdrawn. If the motion's not gonna be withdrawn, then the next order would be to see if there's a second on the motion.
There was a second, so.
I called for discussion. I don't know if there was a.
I don't remember.
There was never a second to call for discussion.
And I gotta recall what the motion was.
I have 333 and 1.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so we only, what are we doing now? We're just taking the.
So there's a motion with no second, is that where we are on that?
Well, yeah, but can we re-bring that motion up?
Sure.
Yeah, so.
Well, I'm making sure if it doesn't fail for lack of
Oh,
a second or
okay.
something, that's what I'm making sure.
Just be withdrawn.
Okay, it's
It's just
withdrawn.
Okay, so the
Okay.
motion's withdrawn.
Okay, Randy.
I agree.
Okay.
Randy Shelton, City of Gulf. I'm a little perplexed as an ex-council member. Usually you guys are real good and in the past about allowing someone that applied, for funds to speak. And tonight I'm just a little taken back that you did that. You kind of gave your decision and kind of looks like which way that it's going. I don't know how many of the applicants are here, but I wasn't going to say anything, but I'm the vice president of the Gulf Area Historical Society. I believe you guys know that. But also I have Ida Denier, longtime resident, and she had a few words that she would like to say about the Historical Society, if you would allow her.
Okay,
And I know
well,
it's a hard
no,
decision.
please forgive us. I thought you had to fill out a speaker sheet for that. I'm sorry.
There's
so-
communications. I was under the
Okay,
impression that
so-
in the past, it was an application and you were going to ask, was there anyone?
I don't think that happened, no?
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. I'll be real quick. I
You
do
don't
want you to know that we have 3,000 to 5,000 kids that come out to McFarland every year. The majority of those are Galt students. In addition, this year we have 11 weddings. We have scout jamborees. We have class reunions, family reunions. And so our little bathroom that we have is not adequate. So we are in the process of raising funds for construction of new bathrooms to improve our facility, and we're asking for your support as we have had in the past. So we appreciate everything that you can give us. We truly appreciate working with you. Thank you.
Could I ask you a question, Ida?
Sure.
Do you charge for the weddings and
The
the?
weddings are, everything is charged. For school children, I've had, in May so far, I think I've had a couple of days without school children. Each child that comes out pays $5. Weddings, depending on whether there's alcohol at the wedding or no alcohol, but everybody pays.
Okay.
Except the scouts. The scouts don't pay if they use a service project for us. If they don't use the service project, yes, then they pay. So everybody pays.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you.
Kevin Barkley.
Thanks for the opportunity to speak. My name is Kevin Harcourt. I'm founder of Project Love. And obviously, there's a miscommunication about what Project Love does in this community. And it's not about the homeless. They're 10% probably of what we serve. We serve dinners to people that are hungry. And there's quite a few people that are hungry in this community. But you're not recognizing, you're billing it out, that I felt like I took on something that I got earmarked as somebody helping the homeless, and I'm glad I'm earmarked to do that. Okay, and I'm glad there's somebody that cares. because I don't know where they're gonna go, where you're gonna push them, or wherever you wanna put them. They're not gonna go away. And the people that are hungry in this city, you just listen to the school talk about who is in the city. There is a lot of people that don't make enough money to make it through the end of the week. We currently opened a food bank in Galt. We've provided already this month over 2,000 pounds of food. We've also helped other groups out with food, getting them signed up with Feeding America. And so Project Love unites this community together. The police department asked us to come to the parks. It isn't because we come there by accident. We come there to show that there's a need, that there's somebody that actually cares for the people that are hungry, that are poor in this community. We have a poor community, whether you like it or not. That is the fact. If you look at the demographics of that school board, over here at Fairside, it speaks for itself. And don't try to hide it. And I'm sorry that I'm a little upset. I've heard your comments, and I just don't think you really understand or ever really talk to me about what we do at Project Love. We come alongside we have a great volunteer group that we come alongside of any group that helps us, even people with businesses that we come by and help them cook dinner for their grand openings with the Chamber of Commerce and different things. So we're not here, you know, I used to be a fire captain here in town, and we had a volunteer fire department, okay? That volunteer fire department had a huge numbers. We no longer have that unit in this city. We don't have the resources to go ask a bunch of people to help. But Project Love does, and that's what it does. If you need help, we're there to help you. Whether or not it's feeding the hungry, or just helping you do something, or clean up your house, or whatever it is, we're there to help you. For school-age kids, over at New Hope, we had a back to school. We're the only organization in this city that does that. We gave out backpacks. We got 40 petitions over there. Over 150 haircuts were given out. So a child could go to school that first day with clothes on his back and give him the chance, just as another kid going to that school, and with a backpack full of school supplies. So when we get focused as that we're just the homeless people, or that we're helping, that is wrong. And that report reflects some of that. And if you read it, then you'd know. But obviously you haven't. So that's all I have to say, and I thank you for considering us on the money. And we do have $500 on the books, and we have to use that before July. Our organization does not have any money, any source of funding, other than what you gave us, and we have to spend the money first before we can collect the money. And so, yeah, we're budgeting that money all the way down to July so we can feed people. And that's all I got to say.
Okay. Thank you, Kevin. Council.
Any more comments?
Any more comments?
No.
Any motion?
Do you want to throw your other motion back out there again?
I will repeat my previous motion,
Okay.
which was 3, 3, 3, and 1.
Do I have a second?
Second.
One for historical.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, what was the
3
one
for History Makers, 3 for Laheim, 3 for Project Love, and 1 for, no, 1 for, is that the way it's called?
No, your suggestion that I repeated was 3,000 for historical,
History Makers, and 1,000.
Laheim,
History
Makers, and 1,000 for Project Love.
Okay, good.
Did we get a second?
Second stands.
Let's call for the vote.
Vice Mayor Singleton?
Aye.
Councilmember Payne?
Aye.
Councilmember Campion?
Aye.
Councilmember Cruz?
Aye.
Mayor Powers?
Aye. Okay. Now we're to comments. Did you have other things you wanted to say?
Just a few reminders. There's a public safety, no, that's yesterday. May 22nd, Commission on Aging meeting. at the California Room at the Parks and Rec Department at 5:15. A reminder that city offices are closed on Monday, May 26th, in honor of Memorial Day. On May 31st, we will be having our Public Safety Day out at the Galt Community Park from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., and everyone's invited. There's a youth committee meeting on June 2nd at 6 p.m. in the council chambers. That takes us to our next city council meeting.
Okay, thank you very much. Any comments by staff? Quickly.
2 quick comments. Wow, long meeting, really good content. Pleased to report that significant work is continuing on Twin Cities Road, roundabouts and widening project. We have crews working 12-hour days, 6 days a week, trying to get this back open for the public. And unfortunately, we encountered a couple of PG&E conflicts in the last week, and that was following a couple of rain delay days a couple of weeks prior. And that has put us a couple of weeks behind schedule. Otherwise, we had hoped to already have the roadway back open. We have resolved utility conflicts, and that is allowing us now to move forward with the signal work at Fermoy to get the new signals up and out of the way for the widening. And so we are tentatively scheduled to reopen the state highway and the overpass and the new roundabouts for Monday, June 2nd. There'll be night work Sunday to get that open, and then hopefully open to the public on Monday morning. And then we will probably be continuing to complete the signal work at Fermoy. So we might be working under temporary stop signs and things until that final work can get done. But I wanted to give you that update, knowing that we had originally said about 4 weeks, and we're pushing 6 at this point. Also, I'd like to give a shout out to our crew of Public Works. This is National Public Works Week, and I'd like to just thank our crews for all that they do in the vital services and infrastructure support that they offer the city residents throughout the year. And this Friday, we have this final day of National Public Works Week. We've thrown the gauntlet down and challenged other city departments to a lunchtime softball game. And I understand that the city manager and a certain department head who's seated at the lower dais here have been shamelessly recruiting ringers from all over Northern California along with city staff, and it's all in good fun. And we would invite the council to come out at lunchtime. We're going to have a chili cook-off and some hot dogs and a fun-filled softball grudge match. Might be a first annual. We'll see where that takes us. And
when is that?
I would like to personally invite, I don't know where the recruitment efforts have stopped, but any council members that would like to join the Public Works team and be a winner on Friday. That's at noontime, Sports Complex.
When?
Friday, this coming Friday at noon at Sports Complex.
Bring my bat.
So you actually want to handicap, you're trying to recruit us.
I would like it, and nothing better, but unfortunately I will be out of town that day, so please forgive me.
We got hot dogs, I'm going to be there.
Yeah, really, chili.
Chili, yeah. I just made some last night.
Chief, Jason, Steve?
Just remind you that we're going back into closed session.
Oh, yes, sorry. Sorry, okay. Well, council, anybody?
So I was going to give you a little update as to what happened on Cap to Cap and last week, but given the time
Can we do that
constraints,
next
I'll
time?
do that next time.
Yeah, that's great.
That'd be awesome.
I just wanted to say one thing is, I did go to the Strawberry Festival. It was very nice. It was well attended. I gave a rip-roaring speech on Armed Forces Day that was written by Councilmember Cruz. So I think it was a fun weekend and we had a good time.
I like
And-
the performing dogs.
Yeah,
Oh,
the frisbee guys.
yeah.
So we're going to adjourn to closed session.